Dallas to New York on Tuesday. Couldn't have gone better. I have this argument with Ellie all the time. Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, I think, is awesome.
It's okay.
I have never encountered, I know everybody says that, maybe I'm a homer on this, but I've never encountered a security line that's really more than a couple of minutes. I fly through security at Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, it's huge and sprawling and all that, and there's a problem if they say you want to change terminals and you got to get on a train and all that stuff. But the only problem I have with Dallas-Fort Worth is actually leaving the airport. When you get off your plane, you go to the gate, you have to walk. You're like, where's the exit from this airport? That's the only bad thing. My point is, flew through security, no delays, and I'm flying what? Was it 24 or 48 hours after the plane crash at LaGuardia?
48.
So when I landed in New York, it was Sunday night. Mm-hmm. When I landed in New York, I saw the plane still propped up on its tail on the runway.
That freaked you out?
But yet I had no delays. It's kind of freaky to see. It really is. Yeah. It's a little bit like COVID where you go through the world, and we live in this world that we accept and think has a certain level of sanity to it and a certain level of security to it. And it just takes one little thing to realize it's all a veneer. It's a fingernail deep. You scratch the surface for a moment, all of a sudden everybody's looking at you because you didn't wipe down your groceries, or don't come near me. You know, this patina of civilization that we all live within is so fragile. And I've heard guys like Rob O'Neill, famous lead SEAL Team 6, killed Osama bin Laden, says, you're 24 hours away from, what did he say to me one time at a baseball game? I was at a Yankee game with Rob, and he goes, I think he said we're 24 hours away from people eating each other. I was like, dude, we're not 24 hours from that.
Maybe in your world.
But he's like,
72.
One EMP. It could be 72, Patrick. One EMP, kill the electricity. How long until we're savages again? And and after COVID, my belief is it ain't as long as you want to believe. In your head, you're probably thinking a couple of years, right?
Yeah, maybe 6 months.
It's not.
But what would the kids do without the internet? I don't know where their minds would go if they realized they couldn't look at phones anymore. I feel like they would go crazy first.
Well, that's going to happen. That's the impact of the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
But the clean water and food in the next 48 hours,
survival skills.
That's going to be a thing. But my point is, when you land at an airport and you see a crashed airplane like that right there, it just all of a sudden kind of cuts past the fingernail into the quick, and you're like, yeah, man, this is all. We just kind of planes are supposed to just land and take off safely, and all that.
To be fair, it wasn't a landing or a takeoff. I think it was just taxiing.
It was a taxiing issue.
Yeah.
So that
it was
makes
landing.
me feel better.
It was landing.
No, it was a taxiing issue.
Yeah, he was landing. No. Yeah, no, you're wrong, Dan.
But I literally saw
he was landing.
At the end of a land.
Happened,
at the end of a land. Got it.
It happened 5 seconds after touching ground.
Because he was
he hadn't slowed down. He was in the process of slowing down.
Got it.
I interviewed the guy that was on the plane. I got the only interview on Fox I learned this week in New York of anybody that was on the plane. He said he knew immediately when they landed because the brakes hit super hard, super fast. It
was like a fire
and
truck.
Everybody lunged forward. And then I saw the press conference. They literally counted it down from 7 seconds or 8 seconds until impact. So it was. I told that story the other day of my dog getting hit by the bike, and not to make light of this, the confluence of events that needed to happen for my dog to get hit by the bike, that's sort of what this was, for the controller to tell the truck to go right at that moment, right when he was landing. It just boom.
Did you listen to the air traffic control of the situation? It's crazy. How it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But my return trip from New York to Dallas, not the same kind of luck. I ended the show at 5. I was probably in my car at 5 Eastern time. I was probably in my car at 5:15, 5:20. I knew it was going to be a little tight. My flight was at 7. I got to the airport. Horrible New York traffic. I got to the airport at 6:10. All right. It boards at 6:15. Now, in Dallas, honestly, that's not a problem. And I've had my moments at LaGuardia where it's not a problem. I've got all the things, pre-check, clear. I got all the things. I walk in, dude, and that line is all the way through all the, where you check your bags and do all that. And then there's this hallway at LaGuardia that goes to a parking garage, and it's all the way down that hallway towards the parking garage. And I get in it. I mean, I immediately know, and I call American because I'm concierge key status, and I'm like, all right, what do we do? They said maybe we can get you to the front of the line. Such a big time remove.
Wow.
And but then they said they couldn't. And they said it's a 2-hour line. And then I grabbed a lady. I just asked the lady, hey, how long is this line? And they said about an hour. So I knew I was missing my flight. So I started working on a backup flight. But man, damned if that line didn't move faster than any roller coaster amusement Six Flags ride I've ever seen. I mean, it just kept moving and moving. You never stood still. You just kept walking. And I get to the front, and this is what I see. I've got it up on my screen here in the studio. Who's working the thing where you walk up and you get your picture taken and they take your ID? ICE. And these dudes, there was 3 of them where I was, they were the most professional, pleasant, efficient dudes you've ever seen. Of course, I said, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. They were processing that line. And to be fair, now it's TSA that's doing the x-ray machines, so that has to keep moving too. And they processed that line. I was through there at 6:35. Boarding started at 6:25. I hustled to the gate, got there at 6:40, 6:45, and got on the plane.
You made your flight?
Made it. Boom.
Made it.
Get out of
Miracle. Made my flight, dude.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot you're not on the other special.
Thank you, Ice. You know,
group
some people
chat.
are shaking in their boots seeing Ice at that booth checking your passports.
I wondered that because there are people
There
saying
had to
this,
have
and it's
been.
true. This is an amazing PR move by the Trump administration for ICE because they're out there handing out water. They're giving Heimlichs to kids. You saw that video.
Mm-hmm.
There's a kid choking, an ICE agent runs in, saves his life, gives him the Heimlich. And they're sitting here doing this job. I think, I wondered, we're in New York, how many of these people hate ICE, think they're Donald Trump stormtroopers, and then have to acknowledge that ICE is doing a job to keep us all moving right here.
Yeah.
It's a great
Thank
PR
you,
move.
I guess. Yeah. Thanks for getting us through to my flight.
Yeah. We're going to be joined today by Asra Nomani, again, on the 5th installment of her series on Neville Roy Singham. Before we get to Asra, we have introduced Will Call on Fridays, advice and questions from you, the Willisha. And we do have a couple. Patrick, why don't you pick your favorite, and let's run through one before we get to Asra Nomani.
Listen, Will, I'm getting really tired of the Willisha. They don't understand the concept here. I've had a lot of people. We said, ask Will your best. We want what you have problems with. Will answer them. He'll
Making
give you
it easier
advice.
to understand.
I try to. I've made it as clear as possible, and they're like, "Why would I want advice from Will Cain?" I don't know, but these are the best we can do. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I would want your advice. I don't know. I
like
think
the
you have
middle
really
one.
good advice. Anyway, but Nathan Thune said, "Why can't I find a girlfriend?" It's a little too generic. but
Nathan.
We don't know Nathan.
we don't know Nathan.
Yeah, I know. I need more information.
Yeah.
I need more information. Okay.
He looks like one of the
I
Dudley
can do
boys.
this.
How
though,
tall are you?
because
Is the question. How tall is he?
Tell me if you guys disagree with this, okay? Let's lay out something. Okay. Dan, where'd you go to college?
New England Institute of Technology,
Oh, I don't think I ever knew that.
Rhode Island.
New England Institute of Technology.
Audio engineering
Neat.
and video production.
Okay. Do they call it Rhode Island Institute of Technology? Or they call it New England.
It's NEIT, New England Tech, essentially. There's RIT there, Rhode Island Technology, School of Technology.
Oh, that's a different school.
Yeah.
Okay. And Patrick, you're Florida State?
No, well, I was a community college here in Jacksonville, and then got accepted, and then just didn't go. So
Okay. And I'm Pepperdine. So we have differences, but we are the same in this respect. Okay. My son, I think I've said, is headed off to the University of Texas. And insanely, guys, the fraternity thing at UT starts the last semester of your senior year of high school. Like, This is when it starts, and it ends before you get to school, which is insane. Because how do you do that? Like, I can't imagine a kid showing up from out of state and like, what do you mean? This thing's already over? And like, you go to a school like Florida State or the University of Texas, and a really big school, size-wise, you're going to have, my advice to my son has always been, you're going to have to find a way to make it small. You have to. You got to find a way to find some guys.
Like New York City.
Right? And the easiest and most inertia-driven path of that is to do a fraternity. There are other ways to do it as well. But the fraternity is a thing. And look, let's be honest, it's a lot of fun. Now,
the hazing doesn't
you know, I'm
seem
giving
nice.
a lot of advice speeches. What doesn't seem nice?
The hazing doesn't seem great.
Yeah, for sure. But, you know, man, I've started my algorithm, because my son is going through this, is kind of full with this stuff. And, like, I've started to see posts about the value of hazing to masculine culture. Like, it has a real value. And I do think that's true. I think some of it, I think alcohol-based hazing is beyond absurd, and I don't think they do that. I found that out last week. Back in our day, my age, it definitely was. It definitely was, even on sports teams, okay, not just fraternities. And it's the stupidest thing that's how you kill
die.
people.
Yeah.
Bottom line, that's how you kill people. And we know people that have died. I know people that have died through that process. But the hazing that they're doing now apparently doesn't involve as much of that kind of stuff. But it's still, look, it just takes one bad apple on the hazing thing. That's the problem. It takes, you know,
A little too far.
I have this thing I've often said, and Patrick, you got to tell me if Asra is waiting and listening to this, because I don't think this is an Asra conversation.
She is. But, you know, it's fine.
She is? Okay. Well, I'll try to go quickly through this. I have said to my friends, I don't think I've ever said this to you guys, and I said it on ESPN. There are three kinds of guys in the world, and only three kinds of guys. And I'm going to try to use the appropriate language here for this. There are a-holes, there are D-bags, and there are ricks, if you pick up what I'm putting down. Okay?
Talking about me.
A-holes, tools, tool, D-bag, kind of the same, right? And ricks. Okay, there's three kinds of guys. Okay, in my estimation, an a-hole is a bull in a china closet. Yeah, he's going to hurt feelings, and yeah, he's going to be a problem here and there, but he isn't doing it intentionally. It's just sort of innate to his nature. In a way, he almost can't help it. A D-bag is ultimately harmless. He ultimately is. The only person he is hurting is himself. He's trying too hard. He is doing too much, and ultimately,
Insecure.
he really is only hurting himself. Yeah. A rick, which you know I'm not really using that word, but is one who puts other people down in order to lift himself up. A lot like the D-bag, he is driven in some sense by some insecurity, but his insecurity manifests not in trying too hard, but in creating this little totem pole of hierarchy that he only can really elevate himself if he can identify people below him, and he will do his best to put people below him. He's the guy that makes the intentionally hurtful joke, but tries to laugh it off as though he's just being funny. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you think I'm pretty? That's pretty.
Absolutely.
Those three guys. It only takes one Rick in a fraternity hazing class to make it bad, right? That's that's who you're worried about mostly. And there is going to be one in almost every scenario. So, but what I'm getting at is the hazing thing has some value to a society of creating a group of guys that belong together, that go through something hard, even if it's stupid and arbitrary. It does have some masculine value. I do happen to believe that to be true. But getting back to Nathan, my advice to my son, like, he's going down to Austin, he's doing some of these events, and it's a hard thing to do because you're walking into rooms where you don't know people, and you've got to get to know them. Because the hardest thing to be is anonymous, right? Rejection in these scenarios is often less about, I don't like you, you're not one of us, and more about, I don't know you, why would I? You know what I mean? And so the challenge is, and I do think it's a life skill, to walk into a room and just get to know some guys and be as authentic version of yourself as you can, not to glaze everybody, not to be the loudest guy in the room so everybody notices you, not to be the drunkest, not any of those things, right? But just also not be a wallflower. My suspicion is with a lot of guys out there, and I can't say, Nathan, because you didn't give me a lot of information, is that when it comes to girls, It's the same thing going on. You are allowing yourself to remain anonymous. You have to go into the room and make yourself known. You are going to strike out. You're not going to get every fraternity bid. Not every guy is going to like you. All these things. But your solution will not be to recluse yourself in any type of way to protect your ego, the fragility of your ego. You're going to have to take, and it breaks my heart, fellas. I hear stories all the time, guys and girls, fraternities, sororities, high school cliques. I'm telling you, whatever. My wife says this is my thing. Kids being left out or pushed out on the outer side of the circle. I hate it so effing much. I hate it so much, and it's so hard on these kids that probably have to deal with a ton of it. But that being said, if you can figure out who you are and how to deal with rejection, you are going to be so much better in the long run for it. And that includes with girls as well. So the best piece of advice I got for you, Nathan, and why you don't have a girlfriend, and again, I don't know your circumstances, is you're going to have to get in there and mix it up. You're going to have to. You're going to have to walk into the proverbial room where you don't know somebody. You're going to have to walk up to the girl, wherever she is, at the bar. Hey, man, on the subway. A lot of my buddies disagree with me on that. But, like, I was the guy that if I were on the subway, I didn't live in New York single. Dan, you do. And I saw a girl that piqued my interest.
Heck yeah.
I would speak to her. I 100% would. And so, I mean, it's that famous line. What is that movie? Or Saturday Night Live, Eddie Murphy, he's like, what's your thing? He's like, hey, I want to jump your bones. That's not the line. And he's like, 99 times out of 100, she slaps my face, but that one time is magical. I'm not saying that's not your goal, that's not your line, but the philosophy in there is right.
That's also you being not from New York. I feel like New York guys won't do that. Like, the guy Greg we work with here, Greg, young guy, single. He lives in New York City. He's from Ohio. And now he goes up to girls everywhere in New York City and has no qualms about doing it. But I think that's because he's from the Midwest. So he just goes up to girls in the subway. Yeah, I think so. So I just don't think, like, New York-centric guys they're, like, too cool to talk to a girl on the subway.
Yeah, I think too cool will kill you. In anything.
Yeah.
In anything. Too cool will kill you.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about being judged, too.
So that's
you start
my
getting
advice.
to our age, like, I'm almost 40. You're clearly over 40. And it's like you just stop caring what people think after a while, But it takes a long time.
And the quicker you can... Yeah, you're right. But the quicker you can get there, the better. And that's hard to ask of an 18, 19, 20-year-old, even a 25-year-old. But the quicker you can get there, the better. So that's my advice, Nathan Thune, unless you give me more information. Maybe you are doing that and your lines are all failing. Then we got a different workshop. That's a different classroom. That's down the hall. That's dating 102.
Put the screen down,
We'll get to
outside.
that one in a future class. Asra Nomani is a Fox News digital investigative reporter who's joined us throughout the week on her deep dive 5-part series uploaded to foxnews.com on the money and the organization behind the protest movements on the left. And it tracing back to one particular man, Neville Roy Singham. Asra, get this. I got a text yesterday from a friend, kind of quasi-related. But anyway, he texted me. His text was simple. Let me see if I can remember. It was, NRS is a POS.
Wow.
And well, here's what stuck out to me. A, he now knows who Neville Roy Singham is.
It's
B,
because of you.
he has an acronym for him. It's getting colloquial. It's breaking through, Asra.
Yeah. And today I have a new term for him that it came to me again, almost pulling an all-nighter last night, Will, but I did sleep a few hours.
Get some sleep, Asra.
Yeah, don't worry. You can look this good on little sleep. Today, and our headline is, we call him the new American Mao in Shanghai, because this is the document that I want to make sure you read in your weekend reading. Okay, let me see can you guys see it? Okay, I'm going to take it out of the glare.
Yeah, but the title's fuzzy. Tell me what it reads.
It says the 80th anniversary of the victory in the World Anti-Fascist War. Does anyone know what that is, the World Anti-Fascist War?
Is that World War II?
It's World War II. So he has rewritten out of China's history narrative what was World War II. And these are my favorite. These are my favorite tools as a journalist: the three-ring binder, right, with the post-it notes, and the three-ring binder cutter. So in this document, it literally says that this study was written by Neville Roy Singham. So he is the author. And he immediately asks in one page here on figure 5, who paid the price? The death distribution in the world anti-fascist war. And then he has a chart. I know it's all blurry, but you can see the blur. At the highest is the USSR and China, and then it's the colonies, the Axis powers, Eastern and Southern Europe, and at the very end is the Anglo-American contribution. And he says it was only less than 1 million. So what he's doing is a numbers game to try to rewrite the history so that China gets credit for defeating fascism. And then in this paper, in this document, 178 pages, what he argues is that democracy and capitalism become fascism. And that the real
Yes.
tension is between socialism and fascism, not democracy versus socialism. So it's academic and it's mental gymnastics, but at the end of it all, what he's preaching is Mao's philosophy. And so it dawned on me about 4 in the morning last night that what he has become is a new American Mao in Shanghai.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You know, let's entertain
Okay.
this for just a moment. Okay, I just want to think through this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure the numbers that he's quoting are actually accurate,
Yeah.
right? You're measuring a contribution to a victory in terms of the quantity of loss, the sacrifice. Well, most of those Chinese deaths, I believe, if I remember my history correctly, were in China. It was the Japanese invading China and killing Chinese in China. So does that amount to victory? I know you told us yesterday that he argues that tied up the Japanese and allowed American advances. But you know, I will tell you this, that in our history, Russia probably doesn't get enough credit for its contributions to the victory in World War II. Like Russia's Eastern Front
Yeah.
really did tie up the Germans, and they advanced and they got to Berlin first, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what on that chart it says, but I'm sure the Russians lost a ton of people.
Yeah.
But you cannot diminish the Western Front. You cannot diminish D-Day. You cannot diminish the American advance through the Pacific Islands. And ultimately, the moral questions of it aside, the bombs that did end World War II in the Pacific Theater with the Japanese. So you just can't rewrite history to see victory only through the lens of the number of bodies lost on your side.
Yeah, so what happens is that he argues, as does China and the Chinese Communist Party, that it was China holding off Japan that allowed Russia to Soviet Union to go fight Germany, and that they defeated Japan so decisively that America's use of the nuclear weapon was unnecessary, and that this glorification also of the actions in Iwo Jima and other places was Western propaganda. But Will, it goes back to something that we were talking about yesterday. To me, life doesn't have to be compared, and casualties and loss and death don't have to be judged which was more valuable than the other, as he's trying to do. And that is at the heart of the moral and ethical flaw with a lot of the arguments of this effort that we've even seen in the US to bring communism, the socialism onto our streets, because they create this new hierarchy of human value where the white person is less in contribution and even value as somebody that they have decided is more valuable. Yeah, so but that's what I also get from this study is that it's a continuation of that, degradation of people for your own ideological cause, which to me is
Here,
very
I want to entertain one
illiberal.
other thing. We talked about this yesterday, and I think you agreed with me that it sounds like what he's created is a binary through which to see the world.
Yeah.
And the only true forms of societal organization are either fascism or communism. Here's what's kind of interesting about that. Okay, you and I agree that's not the binary, and it erases a huge middle ground, including democracies and constitutional republics and parliamentary forms of government and all other forms of government, right? But he argues those are all somewhere on the continuum leading somewhere towards fascism. And he provides as its opposite communism or socialism, right? Well, first, I sit there and I think, one thing I'll grant is the middle ground that is a relatively modern phenomenon. We're like 300 years into this idea that we can be self-governed in some form, constitutional republic, democracy. But so too is communism. Communism is like 150 years old. It's brand new. There's no model in human history of that form of government ever being sustainable or successful. None. And so truthfully, fascism is the normal course of human organization and civilizations. Kings, theocracies, whatever it may be. And that's not an argument for fascism. It's just to say you're not the binary, socialism, right. Communism. You're not the other end of the scale. You're even more new than the other options we've developed. And you've put yourself on an equal playing field to the one option human beings chose through thousands of years, which was one great leader.
Yeah, because really tyranny is a product of humanity also. I mean, the conquerors, the conquest, the empires, what were they but tyrannies? They were autocratic rules of individual people, usually personality driven. And we don't always think of it that way. I mean, but what was Cleopatra? Was she elected? What was Julius Caesar? Right. What was,
Alexander the Great.
Attila the Hun, and all of the conquerors through time. And if anybody is watching and wondering, like, is this just an esoteric conversation that we're having? I just wanted to ground us in the fact that we're talking about these issues because this movement that Neville Roy Singham has funded over nearly a decade has done a inversion on the American experience so that we now speak the language of these fascism as a possibility, as what America is expressing. And I'm going to just show you like the strangest examples that I found. I got this in Pittsburgh. It was at a protest. This one was after Venezuela. It was a pro-Maduro protest. So just think that like this is a protest for a man who has been a tyrant too in his nation. And I picked this up, and what they're talking about here is fight. Oh, I'm so sorry about this blur. It's because of the setting I put on. But it says fight fight capitalism, fight for socialism. They're putting it on these cute little scarves, and then it goes on to the other side. There's that one, fight racism, fight for socialism, fight everything, fight sexism, fight for socialism. So it's creating that binary you were just talking about. And then of
what's
course
the fourth corner? What's the fourth corner?
Yeah. I can't miss it. Fight transphobia.
Transphobia. Boom.
I saved the best one for last. But this is like a cute little product. I Venmo'd them because it's a good capitalist system when you go to the socialist protests and you can Venmo for your communist publication and your socialist scarf. But this is how they're putting out these cute little products in order to sell these very complex ideas that are actually a false binary, just like you said.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. You've done this series now, and I know that you've spoken to some American politicians, because a lot of people watching go through this and they're like, well, what can you do about it? What can be done? And there are some politicians in Washington, D.C. who have opened investigations, is there not, into Neville Roy Singham?
Yes. Yeah, we actually hadn't spoken about that, and I thought, wow, we need to discuss it. So thanks for bringing it to that level, which is that day one, I wrote that Justice Department, Treasury Department, and State Department are all investigating Neville Roy Singham and his network. And then the House Ways and Means Committee, which is one of the most powerful committees governing tax, is investigating Neville Roy Singham, as is the House Oversight Committee. And so some folks might wonder, why Treasury? Because many of these organizations operate with nonprofits called 501c3s. There's one 501c4 in there. And that means that you get tax deductible donations. So all the money that Neville Roy Singham poured into these organizations was a tax deduction for him in that year when he made a lot of money off the sale of the business ThoughtWorks. So that's one benefit you get. A second benefit is that you don't have to pay taxes on everything. So you go to your local Office Depot and you can show them your EIN number as a nonprofit, and you don't have to pay taxes, which I bet everybody here would love to do. And so the idea with this is that many people may know in history that Al Capone was notoriously associated with murder and serious crimes, but the way that he was sent to jail was through tax evasion, and the tax laws are, very low-hanging fruit in this kind of debate about big ideas like malign foreign influence and other things. But importantly, what a tax lawyer told me was that free speech, of course, is one of the most fundamental rights in the United States. But when you are representing the statements and viewpoints of a foreign entity in the United States,
Yes.
you do have to register as a foreign agent. And you do not
Yes.
get free speech rights if you are just talking, representing the Islamic Republic of Iran or the People's Republic of China. And so that's one of the laws that the Justice Department oversees. And then State Department has already put out a report in which they've called two of the organizations in Neville Roy Singham's network vectors of influence for China. And when you identify them in that way, you're now exploring this issue of whether they are acting as actors of malign foreign influence, which three words that I hope everyone will kind of roll around in their minds, because there's this place called the NDNI, National Directorate of Intelligence. It was stood up after 9/11, and they have a malign foreign influence unit, as does the FBI. And so those are some of the areas
Yeah, the
of
foreign
law.
agent. The foreign agent thing is one that occurred to me, that he should have to register as a foreign agent, and then this money would be subject to some other types of regulations and oversight. And it would probably neuter, in some ways, a lot of these organizations' ability to do what they do. Yeah, so at the end of this, Asra, 5-part series, a lot of your time, a lot of hard work, months, I know. What is your biggest takeaway for everyone listening that they should know, not just about Neville Roy Singham, but what they see when it comes to every one of these protests?
Well, I hope everybody will tune in as you talk more about this issue, because I'm hoping, I've heard that you might have on a propaganda scholar that I interviewed named Nancy Snow. And, I studied propaganda myself when I was in grad school. And it is so important to basically understand who is the source of any information that you get and what are their objectives and who may be funding that communication to you. There are many ideas that we've introduced through this series that I hope people will think about when they receive any information, including what you're hearing today. Just evaluate, like, Will, what is Will trying to get? What's his objective in this? What's Asra trying to do? Just like you asked me right now, I wanted to bring transparency to this process of this messaging that has been happening on the streets. I would go into the protests and I could connect the dots and see the signals and see, an operation, a business operation. And my journalism has trained me to follow the money. So there's concepts like narrative warfare, smokeless war, cognitive warfare, information warfare. Every single person is a target of that kind of warfare. I've had to look up myself, what does kinetic actually mean? And it means usually when there's violence. And sometimes these protests can become kinetic, but mostly they're called non-kinetic. And that's another type of warfare. And so I just would hope that people would look below the iceberg, as they say sometimes, and explore what is behind the information that they are getting.
Well, the best thing they can do to get that started is to head over to foxnews.com. The final installment in this 5-part series on Neville Roy Singham and the money and organization behind the protests on the left. An incredible piece of work done by Asra Nomani, Fox News investigative digital reporter. Thank you so much, Asra, for being with us all throughout this week and doing this job.
Absolutely, Will. And, tomorrow is the famous No Kings protest. I'm going to get on a plane and go to St. Paul for that and follow the money there. And this is a conversation that I hope we'll
Bruce
keep
Springsteen.
having. Yeah, I'm just going for the Springsteen concert that they're going to have, and a sighting of Jane Fonda. But this is
All right.
is not the end. We're going to keep at it.
All right, good for you, Asra. Thank you so much. Good to see you again. There she goes, Asra Nomani. We're back now with Tinfoil Pat and Two-A-Days, Dan. And another question from the Willisha. Do you want me to pick it, Patrick, or do you want to pick your next favorite one?
Yeah, why don't you pick it? You see, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go crazy.
Okay. Let's go with maybe there's a lot of serious ones, to your point, like political ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Chris asks, I have a question since you're a lawyer. Yes, I am, Chris. If an illegal immigrant broke federal law crossing the border along with murdering a U.S. citizen, shouldn't the DOJ handle that as a death penalty case?
that's heavy.
Great question, right? Like, why do we go straight to deportation? And the answer is yes. Right? Yes. Death penalty. I mean, that's a state-by-state thing. It's not really a DOJ thing. I guess we do have
Federal.
feds involved, but that should be yeah, but murder, I don't know, that's interesting. If murder is committed by an illegal immigrant, does that make it a federal case?
Depends
Instead
on
of a
who
state
brings the
case?
charges, right? So, you think about levels of
But not every
terrorism.
not every murder, the feds can't, it has to qualify to be a federal case.
If you cross
Well, didn't
state
And
lines
it's
to
usually
get there,
according to the particular,
Yeah.
that's federal.
he started
But didn't
out
we
with
declare
since you're
this
lawyer.
what was it? Ken Cuccichilli? I'm butchering his name. But didn't they declare this an invasion back in the day? So technically it's
Ken
like an
Cuccinelli?
act of terrorism.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, for sure somebody, a state or a fed, should be pursuing this according to the death penalty. Dan, look this up.
Yeah.
How many states have the death penalty right now? How many states are doing it? And then there's a question of not just do you have it on the books as a law, but are you actually carrying out the death penalty? Because I think, isn't it California technically has it on its books, but hasn't carried out
27 states.
capital punishment and have capital punishment?
States with a
And
death penalty.
but does that include California, for example? And when's the last time California actually executed someone?
Let's do that.
So I don't think 27 states are actually doing the death penalty. They have it on the books. You could be sentenced to it, but it never actually happens.
Yeah, there's a difference between active and inactive. The last execution in California was 2006, in January of 2006.
It's more recent
Really
than I
need
would
to
have guessed, to be honest.
We need to pump those numbers up.
The execution chamber has been dismantled by Governor Gavin Newsom.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
what a failed state. And he for real is going to run for president, and he's probably going to be the leader. And it's just like, talk about failing your way up. There's literally nothing on his resume that suggests competent leadership.
He's bad for the Democratic Party.
Other than aura. Other than aura.
That's all you need to win
Bad
president.
for the Democrat Party?
Do you think maybe we should just stop trying in life? Like, just start aura maxing? Like, just focus on
So I'll
that.
become
How do I get my
Giga
aura up? Yeah.
So, like, well, you know, like, who the kids are into? Clavicular, looks maxing guy, right?
Right.
Everyone's so dumb.
Didn't he say Gavin Newsom should be president because he's looks maxed?
Probably.
Because of his aura? I think he said something like that. So, to your point, Patrick, like, I mean, I'm the one also who said that I read that it's 80% how you look.
Right.
80% how you look. So,
Yeah, he said he said over J.D. Vance because Mr. Newsom looks more in shape than Mr. Vance, is what Clavicular said.
yeah.
Yeah, but Vance is out. He's a former Marine out there running on the beach and stuff. I mean, like,
But
You know, it's
he
not like he's
he
not
has
in
more
shape.
aura, looks aura.
it might be the beard.
Is taking away. The beard is taken away. Have we
I think
gone,
a beard is
Have
great.
we reached? Have we gone over peak beard? I'm talking to two bearded men. Although Patrick, are you doing a goatee?
It's a goat.
Is that what you're doing?
I've always
Or is
done.
that-
I've always done the circle beard technically, but yes,
So 1990s.
I like to embrace my inner
really
bad
is.
guy.
They're back. Goatees are back.
Well, of course, the 90s are back.
Yeah.
Are we?
waiting.
Have we reached peak beard?
In,
We've gone over peak beard, right?
You mean like it's
Like-
overdone?
Yeah. Like there was a time when
Oh, yeah.
beards were cool and edgy
2010s.
and they got super popular. 2010s when I had a beard,
Mm-hmm.
and then
People like
I
Dan
would say
started doing
beards
it.
are on the. I think beards are on the decline. Don't you think?
I would say so. Mustaches came back in a huge, huge way. Women love mustaches. It used to be like when we were growing up, if you had a mustache,
Do
you're
they?
like a creepy
Do
guy.
they?
I've been doing research on this. I have, weirdly. There are a lot of women on the internet that were like, I didn't know what I thought about the mustache, but I do like the mustache because they did side by sides with a guy with a mustache and without, and they always liked him with. Having said that, it takes a certain guy to be able to
I
pull
don't
it
buy
off.
it.
You have to be like super handsome and muscular.
My dad
and
was-
in shape.
My dad was a mustache guy.
So is mine.
My dad. So 80s were mustache, and so you're
Yep.
right. The mustache is back. But I'm
There's
not.
two guys
I'm
who
not
can pull it
buying
off.
completely.
Top Gun did it. When the new Top Gun movie came out, that's what did it.
Like Tom Selleck is.
Did you say there's only two guys?
Tom Selleck's one.
I was going to guess who they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Tom
Who's the
Selleck
other one?
is the king of the mustache, right?
Right.
Who is
Freddie
the other
Mercury.
one? I mean, you can't go full.
No.
You can't go full Sam Elliott. You can't go full Sam Elliott because he's always sort of in the cowboy character. Like Tom
Right.
Selleck did it regardless of the character, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it translated. I feel like Sam Elliott's was too tied to his cowboy image. So who had the versatile mustache besides Tom Selleck?
Burt.
Yep.
Oh, did Burt have a mustache? Yes, Burt
Burt
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
Is that what you're thinking, Patrick?
He's the
That's what I was thinking.
Smokey and the Bandit
FSU guy.
mustache. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you do? What'd you
There's not
look
many.
up to see that answer, Dan?
I said actors most known for their mustache. There's not a lot back in the day. I mean, Sam Elliott's in there, Clark Gable, Groucho Marx, but that's not really what we're talking about. Nick
Didn't
Offerman.
Groucho Marx have a
was
Hitler
new-
stash?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a real
Groucho Marx
shame.
had a Hitler mustache, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did Charlie Chaplin. It's like one guy ruined the whole pool. You know,
One guy ruined that terrible mustache style.
Michael Jordan
For
tried to
all
bring
the
it back.
fashion cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if Michael Jordan can't do it, nobody can.
No.
So, like, of all the fashion cycles that have come and gone, you know, the beard comes and goes, the goatee comes and goes, the mustache comes and goes, bell bottoms, skinny jeans, in and out. The frickin' mustache that Groucho Marx and Charlie Chaplin did was killed by Adolf Hitler and never to come back. And if Michael Jordan can't bring it back, nobody can.
It's dead.
So you're right. Here's my prediction. Within 10 years, it's going to come back. Within 10 years.
The Hitler stash.
I think, yeah.
Well, it's back
We've
in
been
certain
right
groups.
for 80 years. He killed it for 80. I think he might kill it for roughly 85, 90, but I will predict within the next 5 to 10 years, you will see it non-ironically. It will start ironically. It'll start subversively. It'll start edgy, right? And then somehow what's going to happen is it'll probably be some alt-right figure who decides, I'm going to do this. Somewhere in Brooklyn, it's like a virus. It's going to mutate, and it will mutate in Brooklyn into the hipster
Full
crowd.
circle lefty.
And then we're off and running. And it's a generally accepted mustache.
They probably think he's a freedom fighter anyways, this Gen Z people. They don't know history.
Yeah. Let's go back to the Willisha. Texas Girl says, will you invite Sydney Sweeney on your show? Yes, Patrick.
Yeah.
Yes.
What the hell, man?
Oh, am I supposed to do
Yeah,
that?
Yes.
Patrick.
I thought.
Well, aren't you doing most of the booking?
Oh yeah, that's true.
You should do some
I'm doing all the
maxing.
booking. Well, except for Lawrence Jones yesterday, but yeah.
I bet you would come on.
Look at this. Look at this one. Sandra Gaddy Murphy says Will is going soft on illegals. And soft on illegals is all in caps. And I'm going to tell you what's throwing me off, Sandra, is the purple devil emoji afterwards.
Yeah.
Is the purple devil emoji mean they're tweaking me? Is that being sarcastic?
Being sarcastic? I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't tell. But I'm like, of all the people to accuse of going soft on illegal immigration
Yeah,
or immigration
all
period,
it's your thing.
I might be. Do you think in at least mainstream media, which I'm a member of, I am
Yes.
the most hawkish?
yes, you're the most hard-lined on
And
immigration.
I wasn't always.
Yeah.
There's some
And I
internet
wasn't
people
always, by
worse,
the way.
but yeah.
Oh, for sure. Worse, or do you mean better?
Nope, not better. I think they're doing the devil
You're the
emoji.
softy on immigration.
That's true. I think they're doing the devil emoji to be like, I like you, Will, but you're going soft. Like, haha. Like,
I would like to have
I'm
the
going
debate.
after you, but I still like you.
I would like to have the debate tomorrow, next week with Lawrence.
Oh, speaking of
immigration.
Lawrence Jones,
The nickname.
yesterday we talked to Lawrence Jones about black people versus white people nicknames. Yes. And Lawrence contended, Lawrence's argument was nonsensical. He said white people develop arbitrary nicknames that don't make sense. Like, I think he tried to argue that Billy is a standalone name and not a nickname for William. Was that what he was arguing?
Yes.
That's what he was arguing.
And he was arguing that, like, Jack, and this one is the hardest one for me to accept, but Jack shouldn't be a nickname for John. And by the way, I think Jack has actually, like the Hitler mustache, it's mutated. Like, I think most Jacks you meet aren't actually Johns. But back in the day, all Jacks were Johns.
The most insane thing.
Right?
I am Jack. Actually, I'm John. What?
No, it's the other way around.
other
Hi,
way
I'm
around.
John, but I go by Jack.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's John F. Kennedy, Jack Kennedy.
You know what's funny?
But
is
he was
I
saying
had
this is a silly white
distant
person
cousin.
thing.
I had a distant cousin who I believe was John Birch, and he went by Jack because of the confusion over the John Birch Society.
John Birch Society.
Yeah. Didn't want to play in that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Bobby, Robert. This is a thing
That
that's
makes more
developed over
sense.
time, thousands of years. And Lawrence Jones, Larry Jones, doesn't just get to step in and say, what are you doing, white people? Like, these names wouldn't exist. It's not like there was a bunch of Billies running around and one day somebody goes, Billy, you should really adopt a more formal version of your name, William. It was the other way around. His name was William, and somebody goes, he's too little, let's call him Billy. And they all did start probably as child versions of the name. And then
Yes.
over time, what we've accepted is that the child version became okay to be as an adult. I imagine what do you think? 1880, my son's Charlie. he wouldn't be Charlie.
Well, Billy the Kid.
At some point as an adult, he would transition into being Charles, right? But he'll be Charlie his whole life, I think. He'll be Charlie his whole life, and that's not a thing they did back then.
I wanted to rebrand.
They transitioned into the full name.
Or Scooter.
I wanted to rebrand from Dan to Daniel when I got older because I thought Daniel was more refined, but I didn't. Kept Dan.
Yeah, you're Dan, right?
And I was Danny when I was a kid.
Were you ever Danny?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
You were?
Yeah, and then I grew up.
Yeah.
Became a teenager. Then I was Dan. I was like, you know what? I should become Daniel just to full circle it, full evolution.
You know, I know you didn't want to say this earlier.
Did you start calling yourself, hold on, did you start calling yourself Dan?
Yeah.
Everybody was calling you Danny, and you were like, no, it's Dan now?
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Yeah, yeah. I started writing it on everything. I wrote it on all my, everything. And when sports, when I played baseball and basketball, I was like, make sure you put Dan, not Danny.
Do some of your friends still call you Danny, and you're like, come on, guys, it's not Danny anymore?
No, they call me Ovi.
Like your old friends. Your old friends. Why, were you a hockey guy? Ovi, that's a hockey thing to do. Ovi?
Yeah, Overlock, Ovi.
He didn't exist back then.
I'm just saying,
some
the
people
last name become. Everybody in hockey, this is such a hockey thing to add the E to everything,
It's a sports
right?
thing.
And it's usually off the last
No, it's a
name.
hockey thing.
No, it's not. It's
Way
particularly
more
hockey.
thing.
Oh,
Yes.
They call me Ovi. Ovi. Ovi Trice, was his nickname.
Patrick, it's particularly hockey. Like, if I had
Very.
played hockey, I'll bet you the coach would call me Caney or something like that, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be Bikini.
They would. They'd call
I'd
you
be Hattie.
Or, Hattie.
Yeah.
Hattie. Yeah.
Hattie's a good one, like a hat trick.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
They
Yeah.
might call you Tricky.
That's what I was going to
Pat.
say.
Were you ever Pat?
No.
Patty?
No. I was very shy when I started playing hockey. They said my first name's Roy, and so they're like, "What do you
I
go
forgot
by?"
about
And I'm
that.
like, "Do you go by Roy? Do you go by Patrick?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And,
Patrick's your middle name, right?
They're like, "What about RP?" And so they called me RP for like 2 years before I started correcting them. But I never
Why
went by
RP?
Pat.
Is your first name Roy?
Yeah.
Your first name's Roy?
Mhm.
Oh, you're like me. You go by your middle name.
I'm the only one. I gotta go. I gotta start doing that.
Maybe you're more Southern than I give you credit for.
I'm extremely Southern.
All right, so back to the nicknames and Lawrence Jones. We told Lawrence yesterday this white people versus black people nickname thing is great. There's actually a comedy bit about this, and Dan, you went and grabbed it.
It's
and
the full thing.
this is you have it right, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play it.
We try to be funny with nicknames. We call big people nicknames like Tiny, Slim. We nickname people after food. I know a cornbread, a pork chop, and a collard green. I know this one dude, his nickname is Boss, and he ain't got no job. I'm like, who you the boss of? Yourself? Yeah, but I think white dudes have the coolest nicknames. I really do. Because white dudes' nicknames go with them their entire life. Yeah, white dudes have nicknames like Rusty, Skip, Chip. Like your nickname could be Chip. You could be the CEO of a bank. You can have Chip on your business cards. The brothers can't do that. Pookie can't be a branch manager at the bank. You don't trust your money with Pookie. I'm like, right this way, Dr. Junebug will see you. I'm like, no, he will not. Like, what you're not gonna do is have me in a room with a Dr. Junebug. That's what...
I sent that to Lawrence, by the way, yesterday. He said, "No, that's funny. That's
So good. Mike Goodwin.
we got to get Mike Goodwin is the comedian there. We got to get Lawrence straightened out on his nicknames. Meanwhile, back to the militia. John Androsic, 5 for fighting,
Let's go.
says, "Will, are you pro or anti-fighting in hockey?" I am for sure pro fighting in hockey. It's so great. You know, what do you think about the fights in hockey? Are they too neutered? Meaning, they're not very vicious, to be honest, in the end. They're a couple of punches, because you go to the ground. Somebody slips, and once it goes to the ground, it's over. And I don't think they should be doing jiu-jitsu on the ground with their skates. But the whole thing about fighting being brutal and all that, it actually isn't that brutal. Like, the worst case scenario is probably that you take 2 punches. Don't you think?
Yeah, just grab
Used
the.
to be way better. It used to, like,
They
in
used
the
to be better
90s,
fighters.
like, you had guys who were dedicated fighters, like Bob Probert, and they would beat the hell out of you. I mean, you'd be all bloodied up.
Well-
like, and I feel like, you know, I want to get the people who were anti-fighting out of the hockey fandom.
Well, they
Like, those people need to go away.
what they do is they grab each other now, but they push each other further away so they don't get hit. Back in the day, they used to pull you so you could hit. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like a push so they
True.
don't want to get hit. They used to pull you in so they could hit you. That's the difference, is what I've seen.
Well, I think also a lot of guys took pride in not going down back in the day.
Sure.
So you could literally stand there and trade punches. And now, look, I'm not saying they're wusses. You don't want to get hurt. You want to keep playing hockey. So I think there's a little more willingness to go to the ground, thus ending the fight.
Yeah.
A little more. Don't you think that's fair?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Plus
It's a lot
different
more neutered
positions.
than it was.
There's no enforcers anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
no guys
Teams
that
used to
will-
have a guy on the fourth line whose job it was
Yeah.
just to beat people up.
For sure.
You know, and now it's like you
Yeah,
have,
that guy
if
gets
you're-
smoked now.
Yeah, you have to be able
Rangers
to skate.
have one. Rempy.
Yeah, but he can skate still, and he can
Yeah,
still
but that guy
play.
can't. I was going to say, those guys can't skate. They get smoked now with everybody being so fast and skilled.
Right.
That's true.
Over in the Willisha, Elise Winter says, Will, what would you do if you weren't on TV anymore? You've already done a lot. Went to Montana, wrote a book, ESPN, now Fox. What would be next? I do want to write. That's on my mind. Like, you've got to. I want to write something. I really, really do. And I'm suffering from paralysis by analysis. I really am.
It's hard.
But yeah, and I think that what I want to write, I've got a couple nonfiction ideas now. It's going to go back to this lady saying I'm soft on immigration. It's something around, you know what if I write a nonfiction, no, listen to me. You guys know this probably. I started thinking about what I always get impassioned about.
History.
Home.
Oh.
I am impassioned by the concept of home. What does that mean?
Soft.
What does it mean for a people to be tied to a place? And what it means spiritually to be home? And what it means when your home no longer becomes your home. And I think there's something there. I really do. I think on the interpersonal level, I think on the societal level, I think on the cultural level, there's just something to this concept of home. But the truth is, I want to write either a narrative, nonfiction, or a fiction story, mostly. That's
Sounds
what
like a good Netflix doc.
You know what I
too.
mean by narrative, home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not clicking on that unless it's
am.
got a picture of a dude invading a home. Yeah, I don't know. There's still something on the whole, like, history, narrative, nonfiction, James Michener, American West,
Yeah. Would that be
that I
your
still
part of
am
history?
interested in doing. I think so.
Yeah.
I do think so. I've told you guys about this. I just think the problem is if you want to actually sell a book, there's a reason everybody writes books about Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy and George Washington. It's because everybody can get in on it.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a book on Kit Carson that I don't know how well it sold by Hampton Sides. I don't know how many people can get in on Blood and Thunder about Kit Carson. All right, Patrick, before we go, you had a couple other stories real quick. Do you want to stay in the world of hockey where you're really
do.
fired up
This
about
is
the Nashville
fantastic.
Predators? Go ahead.
This is trending everywhere because this is not a morality judgment here, okay? But it's just like they didn't really think this one through. So yesterday, so that's next. That's next. The other one's the first one. So the Nashville Predators yesterday had a Pride night where they wear Pride jerseys and they come out, they tape their sticks in rainbow colors. The problem is they didn't really think it through that their team name is the Predators. You know?
Yeah.
Took me a minute to get
Okay.
that one.
And so people are calling them the gay Predators. You know? Like it's It's just a marketing faux pas, if you will. It's just
Well, can
not,
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why are they? I don't. Here's something I don't understand. It's March 26th when this happens.
Yes.
Why is that Pride Night? I thought Pride was in June.
I
Is it
know.
because the
I thought
hockey
we were still
season's
doing
over
women.
in June?
Yeah, I guess.
I just don't understand. Like, do they just now pick random nights to say we're doing this tonight? Because what I'm getting at is the Pride thing. It seems to have escaped its confines. It's all the time. You know, like, do they do Black History Night in a random April?
Yeah.
Or, you know, that's only in February. But Pride gets to move around and get a ton of dates throughout
A lot of
the
times
year.
they're reactionary too. Like if something happens, they'll be like, "Hey, we need a Pride Night."
And a lot of teams are actually backing off of these, like because they're like we're focusing on, too much on sexuality and all this kind of stuff. Even in the month of June, like more and more corporations. It used to be like every corporation in June
Right.
would switch over, and then July 1st comes around and it's like, oh, we're back to where we were.
I want to sit in those boardrooms when they decide what nights should be what.
Did any players decline to do this for Nashville?
I did not see that. They have in the past. I know. Speaking of Ovi, Alexander Ovechkin did not do it during the Capitals Pride Night a few months back.
You always see this in European soccer. They do this all the time, and there's going to be some player. It's actually usually a Muslim player. It's like not doing it, know, and it becomes a whole deal, a whole huge deal.
Now, another
Right,
great
and then
part about this
Go ahead.
is that
Yeah.
they played the Devils and lost to them. So on Pride Night, they lost to the Devils.
Okay.
Just kind of, I don't know,
Fortitude.
just kind of a little funny.
So aren't they just warm up? Because didn't they ban this in 2023, 2024?
Yeah, it's all warm up stuff.
what?
It's not
You can't have like the Pride stuff while you're playing a game. It's like warm up stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not for the actual game.
Oh, and they had big
banned
old-
it in 23.
They had big old lollipop candy cane sticks during warm-ups. Rainbow
Yeah.
sticks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that was something.
Blow up dolls and
Yeah, right. All right, boys, that's going to do it for us today here on the Friday edition of Will Kane Country. We always appreciate you guys hanging out and being with us. Make sure you hang out with us next time by following us at Spotify or Apple, and we will see you again next time.